All right, hey guys, what is it, Wednesday today? We're going to do a baseball video later today. We're going to do MLB Made Easy. But first, I want to talk a little bit about PGA because I'm kind of excited about this week. And I play here and there, and I'm not maybe the best PGA guy in the world, but I'll show you a couple of things, a couple of little tricks that I've picked up in our tools at dfsarmy.com. So again, if you don't know me, thanks for tuning in. I am Chapadong. I'm a senior coach and contributor over here at dfsarmy.com. Pretty much one-stop shopping, all things daily fantasy sports. You'll find links, you'll find stuff down there in the description if you care to venture in. Join our free Discord chat rooms and talk a little bit of DFS with us, or consider becoming a VIP and getting access to the coaches and the cheat sheets and the tools that make you a better player and allow you to swim with the sharks. Speaking of swimming, I'm showing you a boat taking on water, which felt a lot like my DFS lineups tonight. So you get what you pay for, and today's free. So when I'm talking about PGA, the reason why I mentioned that is this Palmetto Championship this week being played at the new golf course that they're playing has wide fairways, no rough, lots of wide, expansive fairways. It's supposedly long on the scorecard, but because of the humps and the bumps in the fairways, it might not play that long. It does have 4 par 4s over 500 yards. That's a pretty big deal. But again, it might not play that far because apparently this is going to be the firmest, fastest, rollout type of golf course that these players are going to play all year long. And that's kind of exciting to me because it's going to be more, maybe, and I don't know. I didn't do a lot of reading and whatnot in comparisons and stuff. But to me, when they start talking about terminology like links courses and rollout and playing the imagination of the course and the contours and whatever else, it kind of starts taking me back to places like, St. Andrews and links style golf over in Europe because a lot of times if you hit the right side of the bumps, man, your ball will take a big bounce and you'll get a big roll out in the fairway and it turns longer par fours into shorter par fours. Um, I personally played a ton of WGT online. I played a lot of real golf too, but a ton of WGT online. And St. Andrews is one of my favorite courses to play because of that. If you know where to hit that golf ball, and pros do this, if you know where to hit that golf ball, right side, left side of the fairway, maybe your carry a little bit more up in the air, whatever, will get you onto some of those springboard type places. They can play those. And if they hit their shots the way they're supposed to hit their shots, they definitely roll out. So I'm excited to watch the golf on TV. Therefore, I'll probably take 50, 100, 200 lineups, whatever, toss them about, and we'll play around and we'll see what the results don't come of it. So, if we're going to talk a little bit of strategy when it comes to golf and PGA and building lineups, let's do this. First of all, you need coaches, you need Taco, you need DFS up north. Those guys are way better than I do. They have the cheat sheets. They call the shots. They call the plays. But I do know that golf is a volatile sport. If you've never played it before, that means fade the chalk is always a rule here. So if we can find those chalkier plays, people upwards of in these ownership projections, 19, 20, 21%, stuff like that. These are fade candidates. Um, Golf is just really random at times. So if I'm looking to play those, I like to look at these tools and see what stands out. First thing, if we're going to talk ownership, since that's where I started, let's do that. Let's scan the list and let's look. So 14% Matt Fitzpatrick. I'm going to like him in this tier here. 11% Harris English. I'm going to like him. 13% Fleetwood, maybe a little bit. 8% Higo. See, these are guys that are standing out, right, as lower owned plays up here, priced right, projected right, whatever, carrying, decent value and projections. So as I scroll down a little more, you find a chalky batch in this tier. You might be fading Lucas Glover, Harold Varner. You might take a Kevin Kisner. These guys are not going to be great course fits. Maybe. These guys are not maybe going to have great form coming into the tournament. But at 5%, CT Pan has a lot of leverage. And these are the types of mixes and matches. I'm not saying fade those other guys completely. I'm saying be underweight the field. And with these other guys, 5%, be overweight the field. Have 10% of them, right? 12 to 15%, upwards of 20% of these types of guys. And basically put the different weights on your exposures to give you leverage. Less leverage on the chalky players when they have bad days, and more leverage on the other guys if they come out of nowhere because nobody has them. And they're projected in that same group of players, so you can start glomming these things together in tiers. And I'll get to tiers in just a minute in terms of the format of building, but we scroll down here, chalky. So why not Cabrera Bello instead of Whaley, right? Why not Stracco or Sabatini instead of Ben Martin. It don't expect it to perform really well because again, you're not building optimally. You're building suboptimally on purpose for leverage. But when it does perform well, it's going to perform better than if you hide within the chalk. Use the chalk for cash games. If you're going to play a cash game, use Whaley. Use Ben Martin, whatever. But if you're going to play tournaments, consider getting off of them to a certain degree and picking up some of those guys that are around them in and are carrying lower ownership. Okay. Another thing that I'm going to do, I'll just scan for chalk here really quick. There's another chalky play in who's that? Libiota, whatever. 7%, 3% around him. You can probably take it. Now you're getting down here into the real scrubs that don't really matter all that much. When I come back up here to fantasy points and value, especially value, fantasy points per dollar, I'm looking at guys that are going to stand out on the high side here. These are generally in the sevens, right? So 7.5%, 14%. I mentioned Matthew Fitzpatrick, but he's not projected to do as well. Maybe that sways your mind and you say, I want to stay up here closer to 8x. I don't want Harris English at 7.2x. I'd rather have Sunjay M at 7.72. And if he comes in a little bit under-owned off of a Tyrell Hatton or a Brooks Koepka, then so be it. These are all things you can do to think your way through these cheat sheets and these research stations and land on your own personal plays that you want to take your chances on. So we scroll down this list a little bit, we find, there are some guys down here in the 8x range. That's that chalky batch again, right? So maybe you take the lower owned of those 4 and you focus on Vegas. Okay? Or you come down here and you find an 8.73 and you go, look at all these guys around him projected in the low 8s or the high 7s. So Vincent Whaley is going to be very important. 19% does justify the ownership. That's good chalk. Whatever your interpretation of that is going to be, you can fade it in tournaments and eat it in cash. You're looking at these high value plays and saying, does it stand out in its region on the list? These are DraftKings sorted prices, and is it standing out? Why are these guys falling off the list? Other things that you can do as you're going through there, because that would be 2 things I would do, is I'm looking for standouts, both good and bad. Fade the bad, take the good, but depending on the format you're playing. The other thing that I would do is I'm watching for recent form, and I'm watching, there is no course history on this particular course, but who's maybe rolling hot coming in, right? Who has a lot of green in their tournaments rolling in, and are they a little under-owned? Like Vegas, again, under-owned for his tier. Rolling green. Look, rolling green at 7% for Russell Knox. If Russell Knox was projected a little bit higher, or if I just wanted to take a chance on him, maybe he makes sense if you're going to play the recent form game. I like personally courses that have course history. The Masters is one of my favorites. A guy that does well at the Masters tends to do well at the Masters. Not so much course history type stuff for the U.S. Open because it changes venues all the time, but a course that stays in the same place year in and year out, course history does have a little bit of a factor on my judgment. It might not yours, but it does mine. I've seen it for too many years where guys at the Masters, guys at those traditional courses, the Memorial, whatever, tend to do well, and they tend to make, if they were a cut maker at the tournament, they tend to be a cut maker at the tournament year in and year out, and they become decent, cash, but sometimes you can find them slipping under the radar. Again, as you're walking and talking through this list, you start finding some of these things. There's great recent form of Vincent Whaley. It's why he's going to be popular. Look, it's all green across the board. A lot of green here. Out of Ben Martin, again, maybe a cheap play. Come down here a little bit. There's a little bit of chalk in this Libiota play because of this right here. So again, these are things that are going to stand out as you scan this list. Another little thing I'll tell you before we move on to the tiers portion of this little video is when you slide all the way over here, you open up all of these statistics, right? Scoring stats, made cuts, driving distance. This is all great. You can parse through this. You can find, again, things that stand out, things that compare to their peers and the people that are sitting around them, in the pricing windows, and you can start taking advantage of those things. Field rank splits, strokes gained. Strokes gained is a very popular stat now, and I will tell you this. This is why I slid over to this. The main 4 strokes gained areas, off the tee, approach, around the green, and putting. There are only 2 players on tour that rank in the top 50 in each of the 4 categories. I found that a fascinating stat. And they are, I see one of them on the board today, and I don't see the other one. So can you guess which ones these are? Why don't you fire off a tweet or something like that at me and see if you can guess who the 2 are. If you can guess who the 2 are then I might DM you with a secret tip if you can guess them right. Because the secret tip that I give you might just make the difference for you today. So there's your little Twitter question for the day. Who are the 2 golfers that are in the top 50 of the 4 major strokes gained category? If you can answer that, even comment here in the YouTube video section. That'd be fun. Let's play around with it. Let's have some fun. Let's interact. Let's get to be friends. The other thing that I'm going to tell you in our Domination Station Optimizer, if you went into the tiers section, right? This is another way. We don't have projected ownerships in here yet. We do have them here. So if I'm scrolling down this list, I want to see who's in tier 1. Dustin Johnson, Koepka, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tyrrell Hatton. Here's what I would do. If I'm playing tournaments, Dustin Johnson, Brooks, Koepka, Matt Fitzpatrick, Tyrrell Hatton, boom, you're gone. Uncheck. I'm going to play a tournament and I'm going to take the chalk and I'm going to knock it out of there. In a couple of these categories. If it's big chalk, come down to where's tier 2? English, M, Kazire, Noren, Keith Mitchell. Interesting. Very, very interesting. English, M, 17% for M. Down here, Noren. M and Noren. Are they in that second tier? There they are. There's Noren and there's M. Okay? I might check back one of them or something. But I'm going to go through here and I can use the research station here and the ownership projections here. And I can go through and play a little game of clip the top of the chalk off and play those lower owned lineups in tournaments. I can also clip the bottom off in this case of these 4 guys in tier 1. Who's the lowest owned? Matt Fitzpatrick. I might take him if I'm filling in a cash game and I might knock him out of there and use just these 3 guys. Or I might knock out the second lowest owned guy, and that's DJ. See ya. And I want to hide in that chalk a little bit in a cash game because I want to cock block you everywhere that I can. We've been using ownerships as projections in baseball and NBA and having a lot of success with it in 50-50s and cash games. Why? If 70% of the world is on a guy and that guy tanks and that happens 3 or 4 or 5 times in your lineup, you're still okay because you can still get to the top 10 or 20% of all of those highly owned players that all sunk and still eke over the 50% bar in a 50-50 or win a few head-to-heads and get most of your money back. That happens all the time. There's insulation there. There's protection in hiding in the herd in those cash games. But when it comes to tournaments, of course, you want to fade those plays and you want to hope they tank so that you're on somebody else when those guys stink. But in cash games, again, you can still win with those highly chalked up plays because even though they sink, you don't have to win first place. You don't have to win 10th place out of 100 people. You only have to win 49th. And you can get there. You can barely scrape the top and reach that potential if you have all of that chalk and you just have 1 or 2 players that make the difference for you that a few other people did not have. It doesn't mean looking for lower owned 3% guys. It means instead of a 60% guy, take a 40% guy. We talk about this in the baseball video, so I hope you come back and watch it. But we talk about this in the baseball video where we set up to build the highest owned lineups possible in the optimizers, and then we start opening up a little bit. Say the number is 200% total ownership in baseball. We come down to 180, 160%, depending on what types of contests we want to play. And that allows us to use highly owned players that have that insulation, but it also allows us to differentiate away from most of the people, which tends to put us right there at the top of the bell curve and get us over those cash lines. Using those insulated players, but using a couple of key changes that then push us a little bit over the edge when everybody else fails. We didn't fail quite as hard, and that's how you play cash games these days in this optimizer era. If this is information that you need, information that helps you, you need to come inside. You need to talk to us at dfsarmy.com. Use the public link I'll drop in the description. Look me up on Twitter. Comment in the video section. Like and subscribe. Whatever it is, let's communicate and let's make you a little bit better player. The game has evolved. Plain and simple. The game has evolved from 5 years ago. It's a different brand of playing. We're ahead of the curve. If you feel a little bit left behind, you need to get back ahead of the curve, and we can help you do that. Hopefully you come and look me up. This is Chop It On, a little bit of golf talk. Tomorrow is lock at 6 a.m. Central, so work on your lineups later on tonight. Work on your baseball lineups earlier today. Whatever the case may be, I'll have a baseball video for you here, I don't know, next hour or so. So peace out, homies, and we'll talk to you very, very soon.